is Wayne here with Tri-County Locksmith Service, and today we're going to be taking a center hung concealed door closer that has a center bearing and a center mounted closer up here, and we're going to adjust this and we're going to bring it out here. We're going to mount a continuous hinge flush on the outside, and then we're going to mount a conventional closer on the inside. So we're actually going to convert this from a double swing door that swings both ways to one that only swings out. Anytime you do this, you want to check with your local fire code, your fire marshal, and building inspector. But for the most part, this will be a really nice solution. It should last a lot longer. You can see these closers are all blown out. So we're going to fix that. Here you can see that we begin the process. We're going inside, and your center hung or concealed door closers will usually have a side arm or a rear arm attachment. There will be between 2 and 3 Allen head screws that hold a block onto the arm that is attached to the door, where the block slides onto the square pivot for the center hung door closer. We now have the door pulled. This is a scenario where it will be advised you will have to pull the door down. This will not be a scenario where you can just pin the door in place. You can pin the door in place after you get the door pulled. However, with this scenario, we found one of the doors actually had the concealed closer that was not even attached. It was hanging on by a thread, and it quite literally almost came down on us when we pulled that particular plate off of there. So it is always advised, remove the concealed closer and the bottom bearing so that you don't have any trip hazards or any other kind of potential hazards moving forward later on. We now have the door moved out of the way, and Matt is going to start putting the continuous hinge on the frame side. Notice always the frame goes, or the continuous hinge frame side is always the small self-tapping screws. I go over this many times in the class that I teach. However, even so, on this very building, not these doors, but a separate set of doors, another so-called glass company or door specialist installed the exact same hinge and the exact same door closers that we're installing. They just managed to install them backwards. They installed the self-tapping screws on the door side and then refused to put through bolts on the frame side. It never goes that way. It loses a tremendous amount of strength, and it loses all of the properties that make it a quality product. You have to put the through bolts through the door on the door side. That is the strongest way to do it. So we have the door mounted with 2 people. It's very, very easy, very, very nice, very convenient, and it matches up well. We're probably drilling the through bolts through now. Again, we just set the door aside, get the bearing cut out of the way. I used an angle grinder to cut the bottom pivot bearing as it was seized to the floor. We tried to unscrew it and thread it out. It was not having any of that. This having a high corrosive environment. This is a ski resort company, and there is lots of moisture and snow and salt and chemicals used in this area. We got the floor cleaning chemicals on the inside and the salt and whatnot that goes on the sidewalk outside to melt the ice to keep people safe. So we have a very, very large amount of corrosion and just bad stuff going on here. So we did the best we could. We had to cut the bottom pivot out, remove the top closer. We're now doing it on the other side as well. Door is now out of the way. We did have to, the side where we now have the continuous hinge mounted has flush bolts. So we just used a round drill bit instead of the usual square hole. Hard to make a square hole. You could do it if you needed to. However, I see no issues in using a round hole to be able to reset that. So we re-drilled the flush bolt top and bottom so that it can maintain security, and now we're working on mounting the continuous hinge on the opposing door. The way the doors lock together is not going to change in any way, shape, or form because both doors are being moved out together. You would not be able to mount a continuous hinge on a double door setup like this if you were only doing one side. The doors will no longer meet. Here we have Matt drilling 3 bolts on this side. I just wanted a little bit of a different angle, and that's what we have. See him penetrating through with a 3/8 drill bit. Everything is done with cordless tools. Makes it very, very nice and convenient. We also added Norton. I believe they were 1600 series door closers on the inside, so we changed from a center hung concealed mounted closer to a externally mounted exposed door closer. It seemed to be the long-term solution for these high-traffic doors. They have replaced the center-mounted closers and bearings twice before and wanted a more long-term solution. My personal opinion, select Hinge guarantees 63 million opens or some number close to that. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but they guarantee a lot of opens on their openings. So that's why we switched it to that. You can see there's the top gone. I showed a picture of the bottom bearing being cut and gone, and then this is the area after we're done. I take pictures to show that we are cleaning up after ourselves. I always take pictures to make sure there's no aluminum shavings anywhere and that we document that. That way, if it ever comes back that somebody got hurt, slipped, injured, got stabbed, little kids get into shavings and things like that, this creates a lot of hazardous environments. So make sure you document that the job was done right, done well, and cleaned up afterwards. I post these all in my invoice that I send directly to the customer via QuickBooks, and I also make notes. There is no hesitation and no problem proving this later. Thanks for watching.